Shocking truth, visiting a BR0THEL in Pompeii at midnight, you won't believe what happened. The moon hung low over Pompeii, a ghost town trapped in time, casting ghastly shadows that flickered as the air turned icy. The streets were empty, but whispers of the past danced on the tongues of the wind. It was here, under the crumbling stone arches and faded frescoes, that a mystery awaited an allure so dangerous it sent shivers down the spine. What could possibly draw anyone to a brothel in the dead of night when the ghosts of the ancients lingered just outside the door? As Clara shifted nervously from foot to foot, her heart raced louder than the ancient Roman whispers that echoed through the night. She had heard tales, wild stories of shadows that moved, and more than just the living seeking comfort behind those once vibrant walls. Each window seemed to breathe, urging her closer, pulling her into the world of intrigue and taboo. She could almost taste the history, rich and heavy. The air was thick with secrets, as if the very stones were holding their breath, waiting for her to cross the threshold. Suddenly, a distant howl pierced the stillness, freezing Clara in place. She fought against the tightness in her chest, shaken by the thought that she was mere steps away from something both wonderful and terrible. The door creaked open, revealing glimpses of flickering candlelight spilling out like whispers from the past. Who, or what, would she find inside? Her instincts screamed at her to turn back to run from what lay beyond, but curiosity clawed at her throat, prompting her to step one tentative foot across the threshold. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clara's eyes adjusted to the dim light, revealing a sight that made her heart pound even harder. Figures moved in the shadows, laughter ricocheted off the walls, mingling with the flicker's glow like an echo of a bygone era. Her breath hitched, and she instinctively stepped back, her spine tingling with a mixture of fear and fascination. This place wasn't just a brothel, it was a forgotten memory come to life, a living history that defied the passage of time. Were the figures she saw real, or were they mere illusions crafted by her overactive imagination? Before she could decide, the light shifted, and a pair of piercing eyes locked onto hers from across the room. A thread of connection sparked between them, electric and unnerving. Clara's pulse raced. Was this a greeting, a warning, or something darker yet? The shadows seemed to waver, rich with hidden tales and half-remembered sins. Who would dare to enter such a world, and what secrets were waiting for her to uncover? Would she be able to leave, or would she be claimed forever by the spirits of Pompeii? The night was alive, and Clara couldn't help but feel that whatever lay ahead would change everything she thought she knew. Clara felt the weight of the room press down on her. The laughter echoed with an otherworldly quality, and she couldn't shake the feeling that every pair of eyes in the dim light was watching her, assessing, judging, perhaps even waiting. The electric connection with the stranger intensified, and her instincts screamed at her to back away. But something deeper, darker, pulled her forward, deeper into the embrace of the brothel. "Welcome, seeker," a voice purred from the shadows, smooth and tantalizing. Clara's eyes darted to the source. A woman, draped in silks that shimmered like the night sky, emerged from the gloom. Her hair cascaded around her shoulders like dark waves, and her smile was enigmatic. Clara's heart raced as she considered the implications. Was this woman a roving spirit or a living manifestation of the town's hauntings? "What brings you here?" the woman asked, her voice weaving through Clara's mind. It was a question heavy with layers, pressing down on her. "Are you searching for pleasure, truth, or something more?" Clara gulped, the lump in her throat nearly choking her. I was curious," her voice trailed off, unsure how to articulate her need for exploration. The woman's smile widened, as if Clara had already fallen into the depths of a trap. "Curiosity can lead you to unexpected delights, or terrifying revelations," the woman replied cryptically. In a swift motion, she beckoned Clara closer, into the flickering light. The shadows danced around them as if alive, shadows of forgotten lives entwined with every step Clara took. The woman reached out, her fingers grazing Clara's wrist, sending shivers racing up her arm. You wish to know what lies behind the facade, do you not? What secrets are buried in this place where pleasure and pain intertwine? Lies? Clara whispered, unable to suppress her rising panic. She felt the stirrings of dread again, the tightness creeping back into her chest. What do you mean? But the woman only chuckled softly, her eyes glinting with secret knowledge. Not all truths are kind, darling. Some truths can haunt you forever. Suddenly, Clara was aware of movement behind her. Figures shifted in the darkness, their whispers growing louder. The sound was like 1,000 voices merging into one, a cacophony of emotions that felt too threatening. Were they warning her? Guiding her? She twisted, heart pounding, but the shadows held no answers, only lingering eyes that gazed deeply into her soul. Join us, the woman urged, this time gripping Clara's arm more firmly, drawing her attention back. Discover the history that whispers through these walls, the stories of love and loss. You may find what you've always sought. Clara's thoughts whirled. Should she trust this siren of the shadows? The doorway flickered behind her like a distant memory. She could flee, escape, return to the safety of daylight, or plunge deeper into a world of seduction and danger, but just then, a loud crash echoed from within the depths of the brothel, shaking the very ground beneath her feet. The laughter faded, replaced by a tense silence thick with anticipation. Clara's heart raced. What was that? She asked, fear lacing her words. The woman's grip tightened, her expression becoming grave. What you go in search of, you may not return from. The weight of those words settled into Clara's gut as she turned to the source of the noise, curiosity battling against terror. What awaited her behind that door? Would she uncover the secrets of the brothel, or had she already entered into a game that she couldn't control? The shadows quivered, and Clara knew she was teetering on the edge. Her choice loomed before her. Would she take that next step into the unknown, or would the spirits of Pompeii capture her in their haunting embrace forever? Clara hesitated, breathless, as a chilling realization dawned on her. The shadows weren't just tales of the past, they were alive and clamoring for more. What would they demand from her? The air was thick with expectation, walls bending under the weight of unseen eyes. Clara felt the hairs on her arms stand on end. She had never been so aware of the unpredictable nature of fear. Shadows flitted from corner to corner, broken only by the erratic sparks of the flickering candles, catapulting her deeper into uncertainty. What happened? Clara demanded, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would provoke whatever lay ahead. The woman draped in silks took a long step back, her gaze suddenly distant, as if something from her own past pulled her away. Before Clara could question her further, another crash reverberated through the brothel, this time louder, more forceful. It was the kind of sound that echoed beyond mere physical force. It felt like a waking beast, enraged and determined to burst through the surface. Panic tightened around Clara's throat. Stay back! She shouted, instinctually stepping forward, determined to face what was unfolding rather than cower away. The room filled with a murmur, a collective unease that swept like a gust of wind through the crowd, every face reflecting the same instinctive fear. The onlookers had become a part of the unfolding drama, awaiting something terrible or extraordinary to unveil. The woman's expression shifted from inviting to apprehensive. It's dangerous to tread where shadows dare not venture, she warned, eyes darting nervously to the darkened hallway from which the crash had erupted. Inside there, many things wait. Things better left undiscovered. Clara hesitated, her heart pounding. A part of her knew the wise choice was to retreat, to escape into the safety of daylight. But another part, an insatiable, rebellious fire within her, craved understanding, craved the truths buried beneath the mere flesh of existence. Then, suddenly, the tension broke. A figure stumbled into the candlelight from the shadowy corridor, drenched in darkness, their features hidden. Clara's breath hitched as her stomach knotted. She peered closer, realizing it was a man, his clothes tattered and stained, eyes wild with fear. "Run! All of you! They come!" he yelled, chest heaving with exertion, as he pushed past the woman, nearly colliding with Clara. The crowd gasped, and a shiver ran through the collective, like a spark igniting a fuse. The woman's grip on Clara's arm tightened again, but there was no comfort in it this time. "We must go," she whispered, urgency creeping into her voice. "Now." But Clara stood frozen, rooted to the ground. "What is happening?" she pressed. She burned to understand, to know what force had shattered the brothel's deceptive calm. The flickering candles barely illuminated the chaos now boiling around her, each soul weighing options. Too late for answers. The man shouted as he passed through the crowd, panic etched into every inch of him. "They're unleashed." The laughter from earlier morphed into screams, echoing the chaos as figures dashed toward the exits, desperation pushing them outward. The shadows felt alive, writhing, pulling Clara toward the unknown. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, yet she still longed for some meaning behind this madness. "Clara!" The urgency in the woman's tone broke through. "We must find the truth before it finds us." The room swelled, the walls reverberating with a low hum that seemed to seep into Clara's bones. She felt herself being drawn closer to the source of the crashing chaos, a strange entity beckoning her forward. But could she trust the woman cloaked in silk, or was this another deception? With a pulse raced by adrenaline and uncertainty, Clara made her choice, surging toward the darkened hall, the whispers of the shadows screaming her name. As she stepped into the abyss, she could feel the air shifting, pressing heavily against her skin, swirling with foreboding. What awaited her deeper inside would unveil more than just the grotesque secrets of the brothel, it would unravel everything she thought she understood about herself, and in that foreboding moment, Clara realized, the danger was always there, it now belonged to her. What truth would she be forced to confront in the heart of the looming darkness? Clara plunged deeper into the murky corridor, her heart pounding as if trying to break free from her chest. The air thickened, smelling of dampness, secrets, and fear. Each step echoed, drowning out the chaos behind her. She couldn't look back, she couldn't think about what might await her in the shadows. The walls closed in, pulsing with a life of their own, breathing heavily with her. Clara's pulse quickened in response, her skin prickling as if the very essence of the place pushed against her. Uncertainty wrapped around her, suffocating and yet thrilling. "What are you doing?" The woman's voice came from behind her, insistent and sharp, snapping Clara back to reality. "You're not ready for this." But Clara pushed on, drawn to the promises of what she might discover. The promise of truth, of purpose. Suddenly, a flicker of light broke through the darkness ahead. Clara's breath caught. It flickered like a heartbeat, revealing jagged shapes that danced along the walls. She moved towards it, heart racing with each step. But as the light grew brighter, so did the sense of foreboding, pulsating like a drum in her ears. "Clara, stop." The woman's voice trembled now, panic lacing her tone. "You don't understand. You don't know what you're asking for." Ignoring her warnings, Clara moved closer. The light revealed a doorway, its wooden frame splintered as if something had violently forced its way through. The candles trembled against the chill, their flames reaching for something unseen. Suddenly, a sound erupted from within, the clash of metal against metal, punctuated by a low, guttural growl that made Clara's stomach churn. She edged forward, drawn by both fear and an unexplainable sense of duty. At the threshold, Clara hesitated, but curiosity pierced through her. "Please, Clara." The woman was frantic now, stepping closer, her silk swirling around her like an ever-tightening noose. "These are not mere shadows. The truth here is a curse, not a gift. You're playing with forces that..." But Clara didn't hear the rest. She shoved through the doorway, the light spilling out and casting elongated shadows that danced wildly. Inside was chaos. A violent struggle unfolded before her eyes. Figures cloaked in shadows wrestled against each other, their limbs moving in frantic staccato, their faces shadowed in darkness. Then, she saw a symbol etched into the walls, a mark mirrored in the chaos. It was twisted and familiar. A past she couldn't quite remember. Clara! A desperate shout broke through the noise, ripping her attention away. The man from before, still wild with fear, reached for her, eyes wide in realization. You shouldn't be here. You opened the door. The shadows recoiled, as if acknowledging her presence. They twisted and turned, whispering malicious secrets, and for an unbearable second, Clara felt their weight in ancient knowledge pressing down on her. Get out! He shouted, arm outstretched, urging her back. It's not for you. You don't know who you're dealing with. Too late she could feel the energy coiling around her, wrapping her in an invisible grip. The whispers grew louder, drowning out all rational thought. They clawed at her mind, pulling her deeper into their clutches. Panic sparked, rippling through the chaos. I need to know. She screamed, her voice barely managing to slice through the madness. What is happening? What am I part of? As if answering her, the shadows began to shift into shapes, forms of countless souls trapped in a dance of anguish, their faces contorted in pain and sorrow. Each visage reflected what could have been, what had been stolen. Clara stepped back, overwhelmed but entranced. You'll unleash the truth and with it, all that sleeps beneath, the woman warned, still struggling at the threshold, eyes dark with dread. With one last piercing sound, a screech erupted, and the air exploded with a blinding light. Clara closed her eyes, her heart racing, caught between fierce determination and an impending terror that gripped her. What had she awakened, and could she ever escape it? In that moment of stark revelation, she knew one thing: the truths were not just waiting. They were hungry, and they had found her. The light enveloped Clara, piercing through her eyelids with a searing intensity. For a brief moment, she thought she might be swallowed whole. Then, the blinding brightness dimmed, revealing unfamiliar surroundings. She had been thrust into a different realm, a battleground of shadows, caught between fury and despair. Clara! The voice pulled her back, but not as she expected. It was the woman from before, now standing beside her, face pale with dread. You shouldn't be here. This isn't reality anymore. Reality. The word twisted in her mind, a riddle unraveling. She felt tethered to this place, a gnawing connection deep at her core. The shadows pulsated around her, fading and merging with her very thoughts. What do you mean? Clara gripped the woman's arm. What is this? Why do I feel alive? The woman held her gaze, tears glinting in her eyes. This is the truth you seek, a realm of lost souls. You've awoken them. They can taste your fear, they can feel your longing for answers. As if summoned by her words, the shadows began pulsating faster, opening like a dark flower. Clara strained to see through the motion, catching fragmented images of lives lived and lost, of choices made and consequences faced. She staggered back, overwhelmed by the torrent of emotion sweeping over her. No. She gasped, forcing herself to push through the visions. I came here for my truth. For my purpose. But deep down, a gnawing doubt crept in. What if this was all a trap? What if the truth was a burden too heavy to bear? Suddenly, the screech echoed again, louder this time, drowning her thoughts. A powerful force lashed out from within the shadows. Clara shielded her face, feeling the darkness surge, coiling around her like a predator wrapping its prey. The air felt electric, charged with an energy that made her skin prickle and her heart race. Fight it! The woman shouted, desperation lacing her tone. You can't let them consume you. Clara clenched her fists, determination igniting her spirit. I won't be scared. I came here for answers. She reached out, yearning to touch the swirling depths, embracing the chaos head-on and ignoring the warnings swirling around her. In that instant, a voice broke through the shadows, soft but firm. Clara, you must be careful. The voice belonged to the man, the wild-eyed one. He stepped forward, cutting into the fray. You are their heartbeat now. If they take you, they'll consume all of us. A new realization dawned on her, this was bigger than just her fate. It was a web, tangled and intricate, where every choice echoed through time and dimension. The shadows writhed hungrily, waiting for her to falter. Clara felt their hunger like nails raking against her soul. It pulled at her, gnawed at her, seeking entry, fighting for dominance. What do I do? A tremor crept into her voice, uncertainty cracking her brave facade. Embrace the truth, he said, stepping closer, his expression fierce yet vulnerable. Only then can you control it. Only then can you escape. Clara's heart raced. This was her moment, the crossroads where her fate could take a new turn. But just as she thought she was steady, a cacophony erupted. A shadow surged forward, splaying like dark smoke. Clara could feel its claws, sharp and cold, piercing her conviction. Help! She screamed, feeling the grip of the shadows tightening, pulling her deeper. She could see the faces of the souls trapped within, their eyes reflecting her own terror. Hold on to your truth. The man shouted. But Clara gasped. There was something ripping away inside her, an old wound reopening, and the shadows surged forward with renewed vigor, just as everything blurred, transforming into a whirlwind of despair and anger. Clara's grip on herself began to slip. The truth was not just a path forward, it was the final door that, once opened, may never shut again. What had she really awakened? Was there any hope in this realm of anguish? Then, she heard the whisper again, a voice amidst the chaos, promising clarity and darkness. Would she dare to follow it? The darkness closed in on Clara, suffocating yet electrifying. The eyes of shadowy figures blinked open around her, their gazes piercing into her very being. They waited, hungry, breathing the fear that spilled from her heart. She felt their intent. It was as if they were waiting for her to yield, to momentarily falter. Clara! The woman cried again, urgency lacing her voice. You must shut up. Clara spat, her panic morphing into defiance. She couldn't waver now. With a burst of resolve, she pushed forward, feeling the shadows claw at her skin. I'll find my truth. I won't allow you to drown me. Gritting her teeth, she focused on the swirling images within the shadows, memories, regrets, unspoken words. The temptation to immerse herself in them clawed at her. But as the shadows danced closer, her clarity sharpened. Clara could see their faces more vividly now, their mouths opening wide in silent screams. Their stories waited for her, tales of triumph and despair that begged to be heard. Focus! The man urged, stepping into her line of sight. Each soul here is tethered to you. You can help them, but they can also pull you down. You need to remain anchored to your truth. Who are you? Clara demanded, shaking off the confusion. The stranger was much more than he first appeared. There was an intensity about him, a fierce wisdom that spoke of experience in this realm. There's no time for that. He moved closer, urgency breaking through his calm. This place feeds on doubt. Remember who you are. Don't let them scatter your resolve. She hesitated. The shadows writhed around her, images of her life flickering like a dying flame. She could see her mother's face, her friends' laughter, and the warmth of her once familiar home. I'm Clara. I'm not just someone to consume. As she shouted, something within her stirred. The shadows recoiled, drawn back by the strength behind her words. But there were still whispers wrapping around her legs like a heavy fog. She couldn't let them silence her anymore. This was her moment, summoning every ounce of strength. Clara raised her hands, fists clenched. I acknowledge you. All your pain, your sorrow, your fear, I see you. The shadows pulsed, oscillating between desperation and anger. Clara, don't, the woman warned again, but Clara pressed on, finding her voice amidst the storm. Your stories will be told. I'll carve them into the fabric of my existence. Her words burst forth like a tsunami. For a second, a stillness fell over the fray. The shadows paused, absorbed by her declaration, then, suddenly, a scream shattered the moment, a shrill echo that sent shivers down her spine. An enormous shadow rippled, tearing through the rest. It was different, larger, more malicious. It was a creature of pure rage, its voice a growl, hungry and filled with disdain. Foolish girl. It hisses, slinking closer, black tendrils weaving from its form. What makes you think you can control us? Clara's heart raced, fear and anger colliding within her. This was the moment she'd been preparing for. You do not own me. She shouted defiantly. An even louder screech erupted, anger reverberating around her. The shadow lunged forward, its cold breath wrapping around her like an icy embrace. Clara stumbled, vision blurring. Clara, now. The man's voice pierced through the chaos. In a desperate attempt, Clara closed her eyes, willing all her strength into one thought, hope. Light surged from within her, cutting through the darkness like a dagger. The massive shadow hesitated, confusion creeping into its cold eyes. What was this force? Clara's heart pounded as luminous energy burst forth, slicing through the shadows, illuminating their anguished faces. They recoiled but then shifted again, some reaching for her, some pulling back. It was as if they could feel the sheer power of her truth. Was she strong enough to harness it? The darkness flickered before her, teetering between despair and the unyielding light of hope. Hold on. The man shouted, urgency flooding back into his tone. But how? Time slowed as Clara battled her own fear. What more could she do? Trust in yourself, the woman urged, her gaze fierce. Let the truth light your path. Could she summon the courage to face this creature, and finally, uncover what awaited her in this realm of shadows? The looming monster drew closer, a black whirlwind of wrath and challenge. This battle was far from over. What awaited her beyond the shadows? Would truth become her weapon, or her ultimate downfall? Clara's heart thundered in her chest as the monstrous shadow closed in, its dark tendrils snaking through the air like smoke that threatened to envelop her entirely. The cold chill of despair washed over her, but so did the fierce warmth of her resolve. She could feel the energy surging in her veins, lightening against the oppressive weight of the darkness. Stay close, Clara. The man shouted, his voice breaking through the malevolent growl of the creature. You have to focus. You're not alone. With each moment, the shadows writhing around her pulsed with doubt, feeding the creature's rage. Clara grit her teeth, clenching her jaw as she framed her thoughts. I am more than the sum of my fears. She cried out, the words spilling from her like a secret kept too long. Each syllable became a pillar in the storm of her mind. The creature shrieked, an unholy sound that reverberated through the ether. Its eyes, two voids of malice, glinted as if mocking her honesty, startling her resolve. You think you can turn this power against me? It hissed, the words curling like smoke around her. You will be devoured. No. Clara shouted, planting her feet firmly against the oncoming darkness. I stand here to tell my story, to reclaim what you've stolen. She could feel every soul behind her lost and desperate rallying as she opened her mind to them, inviting their stories to intertwine with her own. It created a whirlwind of voices, no longer whispers, but a powerful chorus rising against the creature. With an intense burst of energy, Clara raised her arms higher, and the light surged anew, a beacon bright enough to pierce through the encompassing dark. I see you. She cried, her voice both a command and a plea. You are not forgotten. The creature staggered, its formidable presence shaking in the wake of Clara's words. Yet, the shadows around her surged and twisted, the other souls entwined in darkness grasping for her, uncertain. Clara was losing them. Do not let them pull you. The woman screamed, her voice filled with urgency. Claim their light, bring it to the surface. Panic gripped Clara as she felt the shadows clawing at her, tugging her backward into despair. She had awakened them, and now this volatile energy threatened to drown her. I won't give up. The ground beneath her trembled as she steadied herself, grounding her thoughts. I am brave. I will tell your stories. She focused on the faces of the souls. She could see their pain, their anguish, their need for recognition merging with her own sense of purpose. As if responding, the luminous energy swelled within her, cascading from her in brilliant waves. The shadows began to flicker, shrinking back from the radiant force, their howls of fury mingling with the cries of the souls who had been trapped there for ages. The enormous shadow, now clearly agitated, bared its teeth, a mass of shifting darkness threatening to swallow her whole. You are a mere child in a world of nightmares. It roared. Your light is nothing. No. Clara drew in a breath, her voice a hurricane of defiance. I am the storm, and I will not be silenced. With every ounce of will, she pushed forward into the darkness, the light within her erupting like a sun breaking the dawn. The ground shook, shadows twisted and whipped in confusion, and just for a moment, she felt layers upon layers of history blur together. And then a piercing scream, a cry of despair cut through her newfound confidence. It wasn't he the creature, it was the souls, now thrashing about as their fear re-emerged, clawing desperately for freedom. Clara! The woman shouted, her eyes wide with alarm. You must contain the light. If you don't, all will be lost. All loss rushed into Clara's heart. Focus, she reminded herself. Hope. They were counting on her. But the pressure was mounting, a mechanical push and pull that threatened to unravel her resolve. What if she couldn't hold on to the memories, the truth? The darkness pressed in from all sides. Clara steadied herself again. Could she summon the courage? Would she tap into a deeper well of strength to hold the fragile light? As she faltered in the face of the unseen, the darkness seemed to swell, eager to fill the spaces she vacated. Would Clara rise to the challenge, or would the shadows snuff out the flicker of hope she had ignited? This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the final battle for her identity and the souls that had haunted her. In that critical moment, the question loomed: what sacrifices would she have to make to reclaim them all? With the shadows closing in tighter, Clara braced for what was to come. Clara's breath came in rapid bursts as the shadow loomed ever closer, a ravenous beast intent on consuming everything in its path. The air hummed with tension, and she felt the pulse of the souls behind her, their fear and hope mingling into a powerful current that surged through her. Keep it together, Clara, urged the man, his voice strained, barely cutting through the cacophony of darkness swirling around them. She could feel them, the trapped souls, pushing against her, their unfocused energy like a weight she needed to lift. Remember why you are fighting, he continued, urgency lacing his words. You have their light. Don't let it fade. Clara dug deeper, drawing strength from their collective pain. She implanted their memories in her heart, celebrations, laughter, love lost, seizing every thread of light they had been deprived of. I will not let you take them, she shouted, channeling their stories into her own rising light. Each tale ignited like a spark, branching outward, seeking the abyss that threatened to swallow her whole. The creature recoiled, shrieking with a fury that rattled the ground beneath her feet. Its form twisted and undulated, frustrated by her newfound strength. You think you can win with mere stories? It spat, venom dripping from its darkened maw. I am beyond the reach of your pathetic light. Determined, Clara grounded herself again, summoning that defiant force that had awakened within her. She thought of each soul, the warmth of their hopes crashing into the icy walls of their despair. I am not alone. You are with me. Clara raised her arms high, radiating a light that pierced through the thick miasma that surrounded her. First, just a flicker, a tiny flame against the infinite dark, but gradually transforming, becoming a blazing star that lit the dampened shadows, but the darkness retaliated. A sudden rush pulled tightly at her limbs, a suffocating grip that sought to drag her back into despair. Clara staggered, the sensation clawing at her mind, whispering doubts and fears she desperately fought against. She could feel the souls teetering, their light flickering. Could they withstand this onslaught? No. She cried, panting, forcing the shadows from her mind. We can't give in. Her voice rang out like a war drum, and as it echoed, a sense of calm washed over her. She remembered her purpose in not just reclaiming the light, but igniting it anew, yet even as she fought, the shadow closed in with renewed vigor, feeding off her hesitance. What is a light that cannot endure the slightest gust of wind? It roared, its words like nails digging in deep, finding her raw insecurities. Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes, pain surging as the memories of each soul jerked against her heart like frayed strings of a violin. She thought of the sacrifice they'd made, the moments lost in unfulfilled life, dreaming of a brighter tomorrow. With a deep, shuddering breath, she whispered, "I will carry you all." Light erupted from her in waves, a shimmering torrent that pushed against the oppressive dark, encapsulating the pain in a cascade of brilliant luminescence. Suddenly, through the chaos, Clara caught a glimmer of movement, her own reflection shimmering in the consumed darkness. She twisted around, breath hitching as she realized it wasn't just her. It was them all. The souls she aimed to save were intertwined with her essence. But as she solidified their connection, the beast howled in rage, lashing out with shadows as thick as tar. "Watch as I unravel you." Clara gasped as the ground trembled beneath her, the shadows bending, twisting tighter like a noose being drawn around her. She barely had time to react, the darkness enveloping her as new memories flooded forward, memories that threatened to expose her deepest secrets, those she longed to hide. They clawed at her mind, threatening to crush her from within. Amidst the chaos, Clara realized she was on the brink of a revelation, one that could either lead to her salvation or destruction. What horrifying truths were about to surface? Would they give her the strength to push through the darkness, or would they shatter her resolve forever? The creature loomed closer, a grotesque smile creeping across its shadowy form. Clara squared her shoulders, bracing for the worst. The impending confrontation was coming, and all she could do was hope she had the strength to face it. Her heart thundered in her chest, and as the shadow closed in, an ominous whisper broke through the din. "Your past is here, Clara. Are you ready to face it?" Clara's heart raced as the shadow lunged forward, its whisper echoing around her like a sinister melody. She could feel the weight of her hidden secrets pressing against her chest, a tidal wave threatening to wash her away. Images flashed in her mind like a strobe light, moments of joy wrapped in sorrow, laughter drowned by tears. How could she muster the courage to face this? The cacophony of trapped souls stirred behind her, their ethereal forms flickering like dying stars. They called to her, their collective voice a symphony of hope and despair. "Remember us. You carry us." They soared, intertwining with her essence. It was their strength she needed, their light that pushed her to fight. Clara clenched her fists, the warmth of their power coursing through her. "I will not yield." The ground shook violently beneath her as the shadow, emboldened by her hesitation, sprang forth with a furious roar. Its form twisted grotesquely, and countless eyes pierced through the gloom, burning with a malevolent hunger. The memories continued to claw at her, fragments of her childhood, laughter shared with friends, the day she lost her brother in a storm. Guilt and anger surged within her. "Why did I let him go?" she gasped, trembling. The shadow thrived on her emotional turmoil, tightening its grip as it fed on her pain. "Your brother's fate was sealed, just as yours is now," it taunted, its voice chilling and low. What is a light when shrouded in shadows of regret? Clara's will wavered for just a moment, and the darkness sensed it. A ghostly limb reached for her, wrapping around her wrist like a serpent. Just as despair threatened to crush her, something shifted. "No." A voice rang out, stronger than all the others. It was a chorus, but one voice sang distinctly, her brother's. "You have the power, Clara. Remember who you are. We are with you." The flood of memories sparked back to life, igniting a furious blaze in her chest. Images of her brother, his smile lighting up the darkest days, poured into her. "We will not be forgotten," she cried, pushing against the crushing blackness. A brilliant light erupted from her, enveloping her entirely. The beast recoiled, howling in pain as Clara's radiance clawed at its essence. Bright and blinding, the light surged forth, illuminating the shadows that slinked around her. "You're nothing but memories." She roared, channeling every ounce of love and loss into her glow. But the shadow howled, morphing into a swirling tempest. You can't escape your past. It screamed, and Clara felt the raw truth of its words like a dagger in her gut. Just as the light threatened to consume everything, the beast unleashed a shockwave, a torrent of darkness that staggered Clara. She stumbled backward, her radiant force winking like a globe spinning too fast. A tear formed in her eye, the truth of her past clawing at her heart. What if the secret she buried would only drive her further into despair? The brilliance flickered as self-doubt crept into her mind, threatening to extinguish the flame. Can I bear this burden? She whispered to herself, feeling its weight. Then, in that moment of wavering faith, another pulse radiated through her. The souls behind her surged forward, their whispers filling the air with resolve. You can. We believe in you. With their voices echoing in her heart, she steadied herself against the looming shadow. This was it, her moment of truth. She could face the memories that haunted her or let them drag her down into darkness. As her arm outstretched, she felt the blistering connection of pain and forgiveness intertwining with her light. I will not let you tear us apart. She shouted, focusing on the darkness, the pulse of regret growing heavy and electric. But before she could unleash her power, a chilling laughter filled the air, echoing dread through her bones. The creature shifted, growing larger, more daunting. Clara braced herself as it leaned in, its breath icy against her cheek, whispering words that froze her in place. Your past is not simply shadows, Clara. It is a chain, and you cannot break free. The world around her spun, the very ground beneath her shaking as uncertainty flooded her mind. Would she succumb to the darkness, or rise stronger, wielding the light of truth? The shadow loomed ominously, the challenge palpable. Clara's soul trembled with a mix of courage and fear as she faced the creature once more. Would this final confrontation yield her liberation or plunge her into a darker abyss? All she could do was steel herself for the revelation that was about to unfold. Will you finally confront your demons, Clara? The shadows hissed menacingly. Or will you let them bind you forever? Clara's heart thundered as the entity loomed before her, each breath feeling heavier as the weight of her choices enveloped her. No more hiding. She declared, steadier than ever, igniting the flame of her will. The air crackled with energy, a violent storm brewing within her, blending her fears and hopes into a powerful concoction. The shadows pulsed, drawing closer, but Clara stood resolute, absorbing every ounce of her past. The darkness taunted her, whispering taunts that twisted at her insides. You can't escape. You cannot outrun what lies within. It hissed, circling around her like a predator eyeing its prey. Watch me. Clara shot back, defiance igniting her tone. She wouldn't let the shadow consume her. She'd spent too long living in fear, haunted by regret and shame. With a surge of energy, she flung her arms out wide. I embrace you. She shouted. The words echoed through the chaos like a war cry, shattering the suffocating silence that clung to the air. In that instant, realization washed over her. The burdens of her past were not chains, they could be transformed into her strength. Memories flooded her mind, her brother's laughter, the kindness of friends, moments of triumph mingled with sorrow. Each recollection shimmered like a star in the darkness, filling her veins with incandescent energy. I am not defined by fears. She declared, forcing the energy outward. Light erupted from her, a radiant wave that pushed the darkness back, each beam slicing through the malevolence. The shadow recoiled, its form wavering as if struck by a wave of sunlight. No. It roared, the sound reverberating through the eerie realm, the claws of its essence shrieking against Clara's burgeoning force. You are my past, and I will not deny you. Clara shouted, channeling her emotions into the light, crafting a tapestry of all she had endured. The memories soared, intertwining with her passion, her resolve. I choose to rise above. And the light grew brighter, surging forward, illuminating everything, revealing the trapped souls intertwined in shadows. We are one. She cried, and they answered, their voices melding into her own, forming a symphony of hope that echoed against the walls of darkness. The creature writhed, its tendrils retreating, released from the grip of profound fear as Clara's light spilled over everything. "You're just a girl." It sneered in disbelief, but the tremble in its voice betrayed its fear. "A girl who refuses to be silenced." Clara shouted, emboldened, drawing from every ounce of strength, turning it into a raging inferno that would consume the darkness. The shadow gave one last choke of defiance, but Clara's light obliterated it, encapsulating it in an ethereal brilliance that filled the chamber. With a blinding flash, the darkness shattered. Echoes of agony twisted into gentle sighs as the shadows transformed, revealing the lost souls releasing their pain. Clara felt a wave of warmth wash over her, a merge of sorrow and joy so profound it took her breath away. The souls, once cloaked in despair, were free, their essences twinkling like stars in a vast sky. In the quiet aftermath, Clara found herself alone. The woman in silk stood at her side, the shadows replaced by soft, ethereal light. "You've done it," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "You've faced your truth." Clara felt the warmth of closure envelop her. "But what about the darkness?" she asked, a shadow of concern lingering in her heart. "It no longer controls you," the woman replied, her expression serene. "You've transformed it, shown it love, and borne witness to your own strength. The shadows are part of you now, not your captors, but your teachers." And in that moment, Clara understood. Her journey hadn't just been about confronting the dark, it was about embracing every fragment of her existence. She would carry those lessons with her, turning pain into purpose. As soft light began to fill the room, Clara glanced around. The brothel, now transformed, reflected warmth and vitality, its once somber air shifting to one of renewal. Clara breathed in deeply, a lump forming in her throat as she felt the light of every lost and found soul behind her. "Thank you," she whispered into the emptiness, knowing she had rewritten her story. "No more fear," she told herself, the tension loosening within her core. It was time to step into the future, reclaiming her freedom and the tales of all who had come before her. As Clara crossed from the shadows into the dawn of mere existence, she felt lighter, less burdened by history's heaviness. The world beyond awaited a new beginning, painted in the hues of hope and bravery. Yet even as she took those first steps, an undeniable thrill coursed through her veins, knowing this was just the beginning of a journey far greater than her own. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now, it really helps the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending.